Hi, the topic I chose for this final assignment is from week 7. It's the development of intergroup cognition with cultural and cognitive roots. Intergroup bias is a widely studied and understood concept. Vast researches have been done on this topic, but mostly on adults at the earlier stage. But in recent decades, interest on this topic on children have elevated. Researchers found that in-group bias can be found as early as in preschool age, and that in-group love is developed earlier than out-group hate. The study by Bigler in 1997 found that children from groups that employed the functional use of color favor their own group more and made more positive ratings of on-group members than out-group members. However, in 2011, researchers employed the minimal group paradigm. The results showed that intergroup bias can be triggered by merely putting children into groups. This is different from the Bigler's study. In the Bigler study, intergroup bias is triggered by the functional use of color. However, in this 2011 study, just dividing children into groups is enough to trigger intergroup bias. I was very interested by the concept of intergroup bias because I saw it as a way to understand stereotypes, and I want to research more on it to find out the development of intergroup bias and the factors affecting it, so I can possibly maybe find a way to overcome these biased cognitions. And I focused on 3 studies of my researches. The first study is by Jordan, McAuliffe, and Wernicke, and they recruited 64 participants. Half of them are 6-year-olds and half of them are 8-year-olds. The participants acted as observers, and for each trial they have one actor and one recipient, and the actor chooses to share or not share the candy with the recipient, and the participants observe the scene and punish the actors by their selfish behaviors performed. All of the participants displayed in-group bias. They punished out-group members more harshly than in-group members. And furthermore, in the 8-year-old participants group, it's equal likely to punish disadvantaged members of in-group and out-group members. Then in another study, the factors affecting intergroup bias is identified. And this study is an analysis of 5 waves of data on 933 youth aged 10 years old to 20 years old. And all the participants were living in 38 different neighborhoods in Belfast, Northern Ireland. And the results show that bias increases with age. And also that frequency and quality of contact at the neighborhood level predicted slower increases in bias. So in other words, as you get older, you have more bias cognitions, and the more frequent and the higher the quality that you get in touch with your neighborhood, that you hang out with your neighborhood, your bias increases slower with age. And for the third study, it is focused on racial bias. However, I found it supportive to the second study. The third study have 2 parts. The first part, they recruited 396 participants, and for the second part, they recruited 367 participants. The participants were asked to complete current contact questionnaire and then implicit association task. The increase in contact with Black individuals was associated with reduced implicit pro-white racial bias, and also the more diverse you get in touch with different people, the implicit racial biases is reduced. And this relationship may be generalized across racial groups. So not just specialized to Black and white racial biases, but it can happen to other racial groups too. So after reading the 3 articles that I focus on, it's clear that researchers suggested that diversity and quality that you get in touch with outgroup members is related to reductions in implicit racial biases. However, these studies are from populations aged from 10 years up and specifically on racial biases. But I want to focus more on preschoolers' intergroup biases. So my research question aims on studying the effects that diversity and quality in contact with outgroup members have on preschoolers' intergroup bias. So I see diversity and quality that you get in touch with outgroup members as factors affecting preschoolers' intergroup bias that can have effect on preschoolers' intergroup bias. So my hypothesis is that diversity and quality in contact with outgroups will reduce 6 to 8 years old participants' intergroup bias when they are put into different groups. To conduct the study, I will have to recruit 50 participants aged from 6 years old to 8 years old, and I will put them into 5 different groups, 2 single treatment groups, 2 interaction groups, and 1 control group. So for the single treatment group 1, I would like to increase diversity. So I would do that by allowing participants to interact with the interaction groups, the 2 interaction groups. And for single treatment group 2, I want to increase the quality of contact by increasing the group's contact time and introduce games that need teamwork with the 2 interaction groups also. And the 2 interaction groups, I would call them as full treatment groups because they interacted both with the single treatment group 1 and single treatment group 2. So both diversity and quality of contact are increased. And members of all groups have to evaluate other members' toys, first before any treatment, second after treatment. And don't forget there's 1 control group to serve as a baseline to compare everything else with. And according to the studies that I focused on, the increase of quality and diversity of contact should reduce intergroup bias. So therefore, in my particular study, the second evaluation of outgroup members made by all treatment groups should be higher than the first evaluation, except for the control group, thus reducing intergroup bias. And because full treatment groups have both factors, the quality and the diversity increased. So the increase in the evaluation of outgroup members should be larger than the increase made by the single treatment groups. And also, for the control groups, the evaluations should be the same. There shouldn't have to be an effect. So if the proposed results are true, then the theory holds that the factors diversity and the quality of contact with our group members have an effect on children as young as preschoolers. And increasing diversity and quality of contact with our group members may be used as an intervention to reduce intergroup bias. With these said, we can employ this intervention to more real-life situations, such as bringing down barriers with disabled individuals and any other disadvantaged groups in our society. So we know that the more we get in touch to them, the more we talk to them, the more we know, we get less biased. And children can be educated at a young age because in the recent study, if the results is true, then children as young as preschoolers can be affected by the factors diversity and quality of contact. So at a very young age, children can be educated about our groups, and they can hold a more unbiased perception about our groups. And furthermore, this message can be carried out to daily life, which encourages people to get to know more about others who are living different lives as themselves, and to learn more about others, so to have less biased cognitions. Thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.